Welcome to another episode of A Gander Gander with your host, Sergeant Filthy McNasty, and our guest, Kristian Peter, today. If you've never joined us before, welcome. Take a seat, grab a drink, coffee, whatever you want to drink. There you go, coffee, my drink. For those of you who are not familiar with the show, it's a variety show where we interview people like you, people like myself, community people, people from the DFK community. Consider a like, a subscribe, turn on those notifications for the channel. And like I said, grab a drink, take a seat, and welcome to the flock. Our guest today is Mr. Kristian Peter himself. You may know him from his very own YouTube channel. Kristian, is your YouTube channel does it have a specific name, or is it just Kristian Peter?
It's just me. I'm very simple, very easy when it comes to finding me. I don't have the exquisite avatars and names like most of the crazy YouTubers out there.
I know, and yeah, no, it's sort of interesting. You just going through your YouTube channel, you have a variety of different just videos you've done over the years. You didn't start in crypto, you didn't start in DFK. Tell us about your tell us about your YouTube just journey.
Definitely. I got started in, content creating back probably about 8-10 years ago. I actually wanted to save my very first episode of Flip That House. I was on television for a couple of seasons and we're flipping houses in San Diego, got contacted by the producer of the show, and my brother and I did a couple of flips on the television station, the Learning Channel, and did a couple of house flips. And actually that was the first kind of, that was my first 15 minutes of fame was, flipping houses and getting on TV, and I actually got recognized around San Diego. That was kind of fun, and decided I wanted to have a place where I could save this footage and actually put it on YouTube. And this was probably back in 2007, maybe 2008. And lo and behold, it got like 60,000 or 80,000 views or something like that on YouTube, and got a ton of subscribers. And I didn't even really know what I was doing back then. But yeah, that was my first delve into the realm of YouTube, and I didn't get really back into it until 2020 during the lockdowns, and started watching all the content that amazing people were creating. And that's when I first got into crypto as well. It was just back in 2020. It was like, okay, don't have much to do and got a lot of time, so what do I want to find out about? Went into the DeFi summer, and I was like, what are crazy DeFi coins, and how are people making money off of them? And I didn't actually jump feet first until 2021, when I felt confident enough to actually put some money on Coinbase and buy some Cardano, which was my first token that I bought. I loved Charles Hoskinson's videos and watched his TED Talk, and I was like, okay, blockchain's going to be a thing. I want to get some of this. And, I just started buying some Bitcoin, some Ethereum, and some of the altcoins. And, like everybody, got into DeFi Kingdoms back in October of 2021, after seeing it and being very not impressed with the entire project, to say the least. I saw it in September, and I was like, this doesn't look very good. It's going to be gone, in no time. And little did I know that, it would become a passion of ours now for the last year or so, over a year. And it's been so much fun growing with the community, and you actually reaching out on Twitter and organizing the DFK meetup in San Diego, and and then going to Decentral Miami and meeting Crypto Grady and the Mythic Squad and Rock and all of the DFK team, Dreamer and Beetle Dude and Sun Bear and, Bull on Risen. It was just great. It was so much fun. And, it kind of brings us to where we are today. And I think everybody's just so incredibly, ecstatic about the last AMA, or not today's AMA, but yesterday's, right? With Workhorse and Hubert and,
Oh my
and
God, it's
Bolon, where they just, they blew us away. It was like multiple climaxes. What's going to come next? It was just so incredible. So, I know you want to go into that a little bit, but that's kind of my journey from 2006 until today. It was mostly real estate, and then for the last couple of years, it's been mostly crypto, DeFi, and all kinds of fun stuff in between.
No, and it's oh boy, I mean, you hit a bunch of different topics. Where do I start? Let's start with it sounds like you were definitely into very traditional financial investment, right? The whole flipping, that's very traditional in a sense. It's not necessarily the stock market, but it's a more traditional sort of way of investing. I know you mentioned Cardano. I mean, what about crypto just sort of hooked you?
Well, I've always been a tech person. So I graduated from UC San Diego with a computer science degree. And then I worked as a programmer, basically a junior programmer for the first 6 years of my career. Then I consulted for a little bit with Deloitte Consulting. I traveled around the country, implemented IT systems for some of the Fortune 500 companies that were out there. My last stint was in Houston, where I was an independent consultant for an oil conglomerate in Houston, and then decided I wanted to go into real estate full time in 2002, and that's about the time that I got married. And we, basically just started the real estate company at that point, and we're doing real estate full time. And I thought that I was a genius in real estate, kind of like most people have that, started buying stuff in 2010. The market only went up. Then all of a sudden in 2008, we had that, crash. Well, it actually happened before that. And today actually feels a lot like those days back
Doesn't
in
it?
2006. It feels like we're on the precipice of really a crash. And everybody says, oh, this is nothing like the financial crisis. Well, nobody knew what the financial crisis felt like until we were there.
It could
And
be
this
worse
feels
for all we know.
this feels a heck of a lot like it. I mean, the real estate market's gone up and shot up incredibly fast, and now it's starting to come down incredibly hard. And I think we've only seen the beginning. With interest rates going up even half of a point, or a quarter of a point at the next, it's still causing that imbalance between supply and demand. And once the supply starts to catch up, it's going to be pretty ugly for the next couple of years. The real estate market doesn't turn on a dime like the crypto market. You're not going to see that volatility, but when it starts to go down, it doesn't stop very easily. Because people don't need to buy a house. And so once they decide that the price is going to be better tomorrow than it is today, well, they're going to wait. And at that point, a lot of sellers can't wait, and they're just going to have to keep dropping their prices until it gets there. But yeah, as far as traditional equity markets and things, I've dabbled in the stock market, and I thought that I was great in the .com boom, but I haven't really bought or sold stocks for a while. But the real estate market, I feel, is pretty shaky, and crypto really excites me because it allows the transition of traditional financial assets onto the blockchain, which I always felt like, why can't, real estate, stocks, everything transact like instantaneously? Why do we have to wait 30 days for a real estate transaction to close, or, even 3 days for a stock market transaction to close? It should be done instantaneously. So I think blockchain at some point will take over the financial markets. And when we get there, it might be a couple of years from now, it might be 10 years from now, but at some point, everything's going to be an NFT. I think NFTs have got a bad rap because everybody thinks of Bored Apes or CryptoPunks. But at some point, every stock that you get, every asset that you have is going to be in your wallet, and you're going to be able to transact it instantaneously. And that's going to be the most fun, that we're going to get to in our lifetimes, is when all of your assets are yours and you own them. Because right now people think like, oh, I own Tesla stock, but they don't have the stock certificates, right? It's like nobody's seen a stock certificate in such a long time. It's like somewhere at some brokerage, which is basically a centralized exchange like FTX, right? It's just like they supposedly own all these stocks, but at the same time, where are they? I've never seen a stock certificate in my life. It's somewhere, I guess, where somebody's holding it for me. But again, it's just like, I want to have it in my wallet, be that MetaMask or something else, where I can go and I can see it and I can send it to somebody else, and they can send me some, financial compensation for it. Just boom, no intermediaries, no brokerage fees, no nothing, just, get it done. So I'm excited about that when it comes to blockchain.
So with all those transferable skills, why DFK? I mean, what
Good
brought you to
question.
DFK?
I got my first real big YouTube sensation was when I started building a channel around Monkey Ball, which I thought was going to be a nice grade A, game that was going to come out in Solana. And I thought Solana had a ton of promise. And then all of a sudden, Solana decided that it wanted to go down for like 3 days. And I was like, wow, can you imagine if you had your money on, Solana and all of a sudden you couldn't access it? It's just like nobody's going to use a blockchain that they can't get access to. So that scared me. But I started thinking like, okay, at some point, because I had played all kinds of games as a kid, I'm a big role playing game fanatic. I love D&D. I mean, I was back in the days of D&D when we bought players handbooks and dungeon master guides and everything, and we had to have our imagination. It was basically, I think I did a video on it. It was like the Stranger Things episode where the kids are down in the basement.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And if you want to be OG, I mean, there's many of us who still do it that way.
I love it when Workhorse gets on Twitter and says, "I'm going to do a saving throw for all you guys today. I'll get my 20-sided die out." And so, yeah, that's my kind of person. Yeah, definitely old school.
So I gather that I mean that captivated you. I mean, that brought you in. Just seeing, you see these characters, and that's what brought me in. You see these NFTs that resemble all those things you loved about the games you love to play. I mean, D&D is one of them, one of many. And you stick, but you didn't come in for the NFTs. You came in for the APRs, and you stuck and you stayed for the NFTs. Why did that happen?
That all happened because of Tosh. We have him to thank. I mean, his live streams were insane, right? I mean, he would get on just like Grady does now and go wild for, actually summoning crazy pairs together and going for, mythic dragoons and things before there was even Dread Knights. We didn't even know what the exalted, top level heroes were. But at that point, dragoons and I don't even know if sages were out. I think they were. But, there was just I was watching him on YouTube for like a 45-minute stream when he summoned a rare dragoon, and he put his Dark Knight together with his paladin, and I sat there, on stitches for the couple of seconds it took for him to break open that crystal, and then he was just ecstatic. Oh my god, a rare dragoon, this is worth $40,000. And I think at that point I was like, okay, I threw down everything. I went out to the tavern, I bought myself a Dark Knight, I bought myself a paladin. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I think I overpaid for them. I think they were like Gen 4 or Gen 5, so just summoning them together was going to cost me like 100 or 100 jewel. And at that point, jewel was like $3, right? It wasn't like 30 cents. It was like, so you're putting these things together and summoning costs are like $500. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to get myself a mythic dragoon. It's going to be worth 100 grand. I'm going to be set. This is going to be so cool. And I throw the summon down and I crack open that crystal and I get like a common monk, and I'm like, oh shit, but you get that, you get that serotonin going and you start to see the effect that the game has on people and how that excitement of just waiting for that crystal to open and that possibility that you might get that Dread Knight, that you might get that Dragoon. Those are the things that, keep you coming back to these games that are just, it's that little hook that just, continually is playing on your mind. Like, okay, what summoning pair can I get together to get me the best thing possible so that I can start winning at PvP, or I can, have a better group of heroes to throw into duels, whatever that case may be. It's just like they've got something. I think we can all see it in the DFK community. They've got something special, and it's just right now a question of which direction they're going to go. And I'm hoping that it goes down the right path. And it just seems like a lot of the other crypto games, especially, have chosen to either take the easy way out or not do the things that DFK is doing, like going cross chains. One thing I was like, why are they doing this? And it was just such a stroke of genius to get
best. It was the best thing they could have done, and we didn't know it then. And what a tremendous coincidence, right? I mean, I don't know if that's what they were intending, but truly, that's probably the thing that saved the project. If not for cross-chain gaming, I don't know that we'd have a DFK today.
Well, he definitely wouldn't, right? I mean, with Harmony going down, that would have been the end of it. I mean, they might have looked for another home at some point, but who would have followed him at that point? At least with Crystal Vale already up and running, we're like, okay, we can get everything off of, Serandale and get it over to Crystal Vale and get up to parity. And, do all the things they needed to do. But yeah, it was just the team has been smart, and they've been thoughtful about how it is that they approach things. And even though, you know, they might take some flack from the community from time to time about not being as quick as we would all hope them to be, at least they're actually building, right? And even Fox, when he first started talking, he's like, okay, we're in, you know, crypto winter. This is the bear market. This is the time that we build. You know, Fox himself was like, I watched Axie Infinity build their game for 3 years from 2018 to 2021 until they actually started to build a product that was usable. And at that point, people came to the game because they saw the, you know, the potential to make money or the potential to whatever it was they were going to do inside that game. And I want to do the same thing. And I'm like, okay, let's see. Well, DFK started in 2021. So hopefully 2024, 2025, if they have the runway to build that far, we'll have something similar, you know, and at that point we'll be in a different market condition than we are now. And, you know, people see I think that the game will be built out in such a way that it allows players to come in, because that was one of the things I didn't really like about Axie is it just didn't make any sense to me. You know, it was just
Well,
like I'm out and buying these NFTs and what, I'm just attacking them against this other team who I don't know anything about. And these other guys obviously have been playing this game for years and they know exactly what they're doing. And I'm not making any money. I'm not having any fun. It's like, okay, I don't really like this that much, but at least the token was going up. But as soon as the token started going down, everybody's like, no, I don't want to be around this anymore. So
and that's a great teaser. That is definitely a great teaser. We'll definitely do a deeper dive comparing DFK to Axie here in a few. But a couple of things you mentioned from all sort of accounts, I gather we've been told runway's definitely there to, you know, for us to be sort of around for a few years. So that's great. That's wonderful. It makes me feel good, and I keep saying it after that AMA yesterday, a day before. I don't even know when it was. Earlier this week with Workhorse. I am sort of I'm blown away. One, two. Um, I'm not as itching to sort of. I think for the longest time internally, I was sort of telling myself, "Oh, hey, where's the marketing? We need more players. You got to bring people in." Check tune a few, a bit ago, but internally, I still felt that way. After that workhorse AMA, not only did I stop feeling that way, I'm okay for them to wait to come in because it's gonna allow me to DCA some more. I saw the full potential. I just see it. I can almost feel it.
yeah,
It's
I'm glad that you feel that same way, because I do too. I just feel like I want some more time to acquire all the best. I mean, I've been buying heroes like it's, you know, gone out of style. I love the fact that floor heroes are as cheap as they are. I'm not a big fan of buying like these incredibly powerful dread knights or, you know, mythic dragoons, but I love buying just the really nice floor level dark knight or paladin or ninja summoner that I know is going to be a decent character inside the game, and I can just level him up and level him up and continue to quest him and do all the things that you need to do in order to make him more powerful and make him appeal more to a player that's going to come in a year from now or 2 years from now. And I've always felt that the most value in the game is with the heroes, right? It's just, it doesn't matter, you know, the class, it doesn't matter the, you know, the rarity. What matters most is that you've leveled them up, you've got them powerful, you've given them, you know, the ability to be used in different aspects of the game. And I just feel like you could 10x your NFT value, which with us, that's amazing, right? Because NFTs were always thought of like, oh, they're static, and you know, I'm buying them on speculation that somebody's going to pay for more for it than I paid for it. But with this, I'm actually building that NFT up, and that was one of the things I really liked about DFK2 is that I never saw NFTs that you could change, right? And you could add value to. And with the ability to do that, I think the NFT or the DFK team has really innovated. You know, I don't know if you've seen any, but I've never seen any other NFTs that you've been able to change and increase. I mean, I've seen two
I've seen
NFTs that
imitators.
you could
I've
burn.
seen
Yeah, you
imitators.
could burn two NFTs together to create another one that you hoped would be worth more, but not taking the same NFT and continually increasing its value over time by creating quests or, you know, different things that you can go do with it. But yeah, I think that there's going to be more and more games that take that approach. Like, okay, you're going to start with this basic level hero, but after a year, you're going to be able to have this amazing, you know, higher level, incredible hero that allows you to do many more things.
And I think that's one of the many things that makes DFK unique. I think when you ask anyone sort of you're a layperson about cryptocurrency, what describe it? It's sort of a nebulous concept for a lot of people who aren't heard of, maybe heard of it in the weeds, right? With cryptocurrency, um, GameFi and DFK, that I can wrap my head around. That I can sort of explain to your layperson and say, hey, you know what? Um, it's a game like many of the other games, or it will be like a game like many of the other games you love and know. However, transactions are done on the blockchain. One, two, you own your heroes. Those are yours to keep. That's you. You can pay them on DFK. Proprietary PvP. You can take him to Fight Club. You can take him to DFK Arena. I mean, that's all very unique. And oh, geez, I mean, that's just super excited, super exciting. I know. Oh my God, I know you were in Miami. What's the vibe? What did you hear from? And I know you've spoken about this a bit. And I've heard some others speak on this as well. But what did you hear from from Dreamer? What did you get from the group that sort of said, hey, you know what? I'm sold even more. Aside from all the stuff anyone else is seeing that maybe wasn't able to go. What did you see? What did you experience? Sort of brought you in and sort of made it all even more real.
Definitely. I'm glad that you asked because I think that we can all hear in every single Discord AMA that the team does how genuine and how very concerned they are about the community and how we basically view the job that they're doing. And I think that we all get that vibe every single week when we're on AMAs. It's just they're great, right? We know the team now based on who they are. We actually we feel their pain when they have something that's going on, and we celebrate the wins when they do a great job. But I had never met any of the team members face to face, and so it was great. It was really great to meet Sunbear. His name is Kristian as well. So, we bonded, and we're actually, pretty good friends now. We spoke for, half an hour, 45 minutes the first day, and just talked about what's going on with the partnerships and all the different things that are happening. And I think that kind of gets not really conveyed that well, but in crypto, building those partnerships with all of the other dApps that are built on different chains creates such an amazing, it's exponential, right? It's kind of like how Dreamer was saying. It was just, you've got to have those relationships and the right relationships that allow everybody to prosper. And I think they're really laying that foundation. It's kind of down, in the dirt where you can't really see it, but it's going to sprout into these huge trees that are going to really carry the community forward. Meeting Dreamer was really fun. I've always heard different stories about them and him and Fox and how they met. And, he's obviously married to Pieface, and you get to know all these things through the community. But actually sitting down, talking to him, spending some time with him, seeing how he carries himself and how he represents the community is just incredible. And when we were over at the conference, the night was done, we closed up the booth, and he's like, yeah, I still got about 8 hours of work networking set up for this evening. And I was like, oh my God, you're going to be going until like midnight, 1 o'clock. He's like, yeah, I've got 7 different meetings set up, and I'm going to be talking to different venture capital. And I was like, whoa, that's super cool. And he's like, yeah, it's going to be a busy day. And I'm doing all this stuff. And we had a chance to chat because he skydives and I skydive, and he's gone, I think he's been over 100 times now. But if you ever get a chance, ask him about jump number 34, which after that jump, it's lucky that we even have him as a part of the community. It's just like you get to know people, and their hobbies and what it is they like to do. And you see how sincere they are. And that was great. Meeting Beetle Dude too, it's kind of how I pictured him, but I'd never, seen him in the flesh before, but super cool, super nice guy, and obviously Bolon and Risen are the charismatic, kind of face of the team. And they're out there just, pressing the flesh and networking and, handing out swag and doing all those things. But one of the cool things was, like I mentioned in the video that I made, the DFK booth was just hopping, right? It was just pumping. And there was always like 10, 15, 20 people there. And when I walked around through the rest of the vendors and the rest of the environment, there was maybe, 1 or 2 people at the other booths. but nobody was like, and every time I took my little DFK backpack out around with me, that everybody thought I was part of the team. They wanted to come up. They're like, so, how does the DFK game work? And I'm like, well, I'm not officially part of the DFK team, but I'm happy to walk you through it. And they're like, oh yeah, I've heard about it, but I don't really know much. So it was fun to just kind of get the word out and be able to, and I talked to everybody there, and they're like, oh, we need to bring you guys with us to all the events that we go to. And I think everybody was unanimous about that. We're like, yeah, we'll go to Decentral Austin and to ETH Denver and to Token Singapore, and all the, and so
sign me up.
Yeah.
I've told my wife, I'm like, this next one I want to go to, I need to go to, I can't miss out again. I don't know, I don't. And I reached out to Bola, and he's like, well, we might be going here, we might be going there. And I won't mention it on stream because I don't need people booking flights prematurely. But, they're planning stuff. There'll be more events. And from what I gather, I think they're leaning towards West Coast a bit more. So for someone like you and I, it should make it a bit easier. Knock on wood, it happens. So planning on it. Hopefully it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I wanted to chat about something special you're working on. I saw your last video, you teased it out, and I was just captivated by it. You all may remember this tool here, DFK Tracker, was one of my favorite tools. It's still there, but it's a shell of itself. You've taken that and you've taken that concept and you've turned it into something else. Before we talk about it, there's this really cool, awesome trailer that you shared with me, and I want to put it up on stream for people to sort of admire as well because it's pretty awesome.
Thanks.
And I think my internet's not cooperating. Let's see. With that video, I don't know what you're selling, but I'm buying. Tell me about it. Well, before that, let's talk about that logo because it's epic. Who designed that for you? How did you guys come up with it?
It's basically, I have two assistants that I've had for a really long time. They're both in the Philippines, and they're both amazing people, and I love them. They're basically a part of my family, and everything that I've done for the last probably like at least 8 to 10 years has been involved with with those people. And one of them, Don, is an amazing IT person, and he loves to do coding, he loves to program, he loves to do just about everything. So he came up with the kind of the jewel inside of the jade, with the crystal on top. And I sent it over to Fiverr actually, and I was like, hey, can you work this into something really cool? And of course, those guys over there were just like, they went crazy on it and came up with what they came up with. And I was super stoked. And I know Bolon was just going crazy. I mean, he was doing backflips in Slack when I sent it over to him. He's like, I love this. Can I share it with the community? I was like, yeah, definitely. So, I'm under the opinion, like I think we all are, just like you talked about at the beginning of the video, where a rising tide lifts all boats. And I think the more cool, amazing trailers and, just amazing art and things that are out there. I love the DFK art people too. I don't know exactly who it is that does that, but those cards that they make, and they were sharing them on Twitter for a while, were just so epic. I was like, whoa, these are great. They had movement on them, and that, some of the things that were going on. So I was like, I want to do some more of that and push it out into the general public, because when people search on DFK on Google, those things will pop up and they'll be like, just like you are, like, oh, what is that? I want to take a look at it. And a lot of times, it's just that little bit that kind of excites people to get into the next level. So yeah, I'm excited to start hopefully building something that people will come to. And it's like DFK Tracker, we all loved it. If you were in the game back in 2021, that's what you used. I used it every day. And I think that, most people, that you wanted to go out there and see how much your gardens were worth and how much questing your items just came back. And I was super excited because for a while there, questing, you could make $400 or $500 a day, just in the different items that you brought back. And I want those times back again, obviously. But it's like, yeah, I was like, oh, I got to go get more heroes so I can go on more quests, so I can get more items. And then I'll see them in DFK Tracker and my numbers will go up, And I was like, we have to have something like that. Even if the prices of the items and the inventory is, just pennies of what it used to be, it's still fun to see like, okay, I made $50 or I made $20 or whatever today just from questing, right? And that's just like, okay, it's a game inside a game.
Oh, absolutely. So describe DFK today, because it's not a clone, it's not a replica, it's different, it's more. So what is it?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many incredible people building inside of DeFi Kingdoms, and just too numerous. And the guys from Adventures in DFK are great. The Bogside Chats people, everybody who has something that they built on it, from DFK Arena, which I played for a long time, to Fight Club, to all of the things that happen, all the questing, the people that built automated questers. DFK Helper is incredible, and I just had a great chat with Zealous, and we're hoping to collaborate on some more things. And DFK Quester with Born to Die, he's an amazing developer as well. So I just started seeing like all of these products that were out there, and about, I don't know, 5 or 6 months ago, I was like, we need to build something. I need to build something. It's just, I have it in my blood to like go out there and hopefully help the community. So I first thought, okay, I want to build something that allows me to benefit. Then I was like, well, the thing that really made me the happiest was DFK Tracker. And so I talked to Mr. Zipper, and Mr. Zipper was like, oh yeah, it'd be great if you could build anything like that. And I was like, do you think we can make it? Because also too, I would just get a little bit kind of upset when I see like people charging for things. Like this costs $10 and this costs $20 and this costs $50. I'm like, can we make it just a power up inside the game? So it's C Jewel or S Jewel or something like that. If you have 100 S Jewel and you stake it, you can use it as a power up. And he's like, yeah, that'd be great. So, we're trying to figure out how to do that economically so that it makes sense, because, there's all kinds of costs that go into it as well, with servers and people, developing and all that kind of stuff. And I understand that people will need to make money, but I'm also too looking at it like, okay, how can we build that fun, exciting kind of dashboard? I've called it the DFK dashboard inside the game, that allows you to go out and do those things. And at the same time, I was talking to one of the developers, I think it was Sunbear 2 at the conference. And I was like, I want to do the chat functionality. And he's like, that's great. We're working on something, chat wise inside the game. But if you could help build that, you could probably fast track it and get it into the game sooner. I'm like, yeah, what I'm thinking of is, I've got, this mythic hero that has these certain genes, and I can see that I need this other, mythic hero that has these certain genes, but I have no idea who this wallet address is or who this avatar is. And, there's no way for me to contact them, and they've never listed it for sale. They've never listed it for hire. Damn, I wish I could just, summon with it one time just to see what I got. And so I was like, there's got to be a way that you just have a little chat button on there. And it may be that it gets to the person, it may be that it doesn't, but at least to put that out there into the universe and say, hey, I'm interested if you possibly want to sell your hero, or if you might, private hire him to me at some point. And then if they see it, or they get notified, like, oh, hey, this guy,
I
Sergeant Filthy McNasty, wants to hire my hero, and he'll pay me, 100 crystal for it. I wasn't thinking about it, but sure, go ahead. And just
the number,
I think would be cool.
Yeah, no, the number of messages and chats, in variety of different chats I've seen, where it's like, hey, does anyone know, Wallet, Kristian Peter or Sergeant Filthy McNasty? Do you guys know who that is? And it's like, oh, I don't know. I'm looking for them. They've got the hero I need. I've literally been told, if you can find and locate this guy, I'll pay you sort of a finder's fee, because it's like, that's the hero I need. That's the hero I want. They've got this, maybe a pet I want or need. So when I heard you'd be doing that, and that'd be part of DFK Today, I was like, oh my God. And the fact that you're working with the team sort of integrated in, within the game as a power up, I didn't know that piece. That's exciting.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And I don't want to, kind of jump ahead of the game, because I know talking to Mr. Zipper, it's, it's a work in progress. And with the team, it's going to be, it might be 6 months from now, it might be a year from now before they've got everything in place. But they're like, yeah, we're going to definitely try to have some type of a profit sharing built in for third-party applications that build on side of DFK. And, like I talked about in one of my previous videos, I think that DFK should just be that platform that allows everybody to come in and create whatever it is that they want to create, and says, here you go. If you want to play play Fight Club, here's Fight Club. If you want to play DFK Arena, here's DFK Arena. If you want to play Wisdom Games PvP, here's Wisdom Games PvP. But everybody should, be able to build inside of it. And then depending on who builds what and how many people use it and how well it goes over, they're going to get compensated. And at that point, everybody wins, right? Because you're thinking like, oh, great, I can go in here and develop something better than yours. And if you do, great, you benefit from it. And if you don't, no worries. I mean, it's still something there inside the game that everybody can play and everybody can enjoy and hopefully benefit from as well. So I'm super stoked about that. But yeah, the way I first started thinking about it was, I think Neindorf and Raf were talking about them buying land, and they went out and bought the land, and it's just like, you don't have any way to really go buy land inside the game unless somebody wants to sell you the land, and usually they list it for 999,999 jewel, hoping that somebody's going to be stupid enough to press buy on that. But I was thinking, like, as a real estate investor, maybe I can be the broker, right? The go-to, the middleman who says like, oh, Neindorf and Raf, you guys want to buy a piece of real estate? How close do you want to get it to the castle? Okay, great. Maybe I can go and contact this person who I know over here. He's got a piece of land. Maybe he's willing to sell it for, 100,000. How much you guys want to pay? 80? Okay, maybe we can make a deal. You guys get your land for, 85,000. He gets 85,000, maybe you take a commission in between like you would on a typical real estate transaction. Everybody's happy at the end of the day. And I was like, that makes more sense because you got all those extra transactions going, through the game. And then you've also too made that transaction where somebody who probably wasn't using that asset got, value for it. And somebody who really wanted it got it for the price they wanted it for. So I was like, yeah, this could be something that's really big. I'm hoping that it's, one of those things that people look at and they go, yeah, this is great. I really want to do this. And, I was just
you're
like,
you're making the gear spin. I mean, land's great. And many of us would love to purchase land and can't afford it. But even brokers for things like heroes. I mean, oftentimes I find myself that I have a Dark Knight, which I like. I had Dark summoned it, and I think that I've heard him say this, that Kupo has a paladin. And I've had in the back of my head, I was like, I want to reach out and say, hey, maybe we can broker a deal. I know you love your hero, I love my hero, but I love to own your hero. I've not made the time to sort of make that sort of conversation happen. Even though we talk often, we know each other, but to have a broker to sort of serve as a middleman to sort of make the deal happen, I mean, that's epic. That's impressive. So is that something you're actively working on sort of on doing with DFK today, or is it sort of maybe one of the things that you have in mind but maybe have not been able to piece together?
Yeah, that's actually something that we've already brainstormed. We've kind of whiteboarded it, put all the pieces together for it. The biggest thing is going to be the messaging and chat functionality, which is going to come into place after the dashboard. So the hero viewer, the pet viewer, the land viewer, we're going to have those built in, and then there'll be ways to interact with those owners, the wallet owners, based on the who it is that owns that specific NFT. And then that person on the other side can decide if they want to message back and forth with the person asking or not. So you don't get inundated by a bunch of people and that are just asking you random questions. But you can basically do the same things that you would in like a Twitter or any social media application, Instagram or something. So those things will probably be built in. But yeah, the dashboard like DFK Tracker, and then the messaging system, kind of like DFK's already talked about, that's probably going to be used for guilds and that kind of stuff as well. So I was like, yeah, we can put all these things together. And then when I was talking to Sunbear about it, I'm like, do you think we could implement these and get them fast tracked into the game? And he's like, yeah, if you guys could be the kind of like the guys that are building the tools, and then people are loving them, and then we could say, okay, great, they love this messaging system, we're gonna figure out a way how we can put this into the game, and maybe we'll make it in as a power up or something like that, and you guys can share in the the value that's accrued from that. I was like, awesome. That's that's kind of what I care about, and it's making it more fun, right? It's going to be more fun to play, just like you said. If we can all chat, and if I could be like, all right, I'm gonna get on at midnight, and I'm gonna chat and see who's out there. Oh, okay, Crypto Grady's obviously there, and Sergeant Filthy McNasty's there, and a couple guys are over here. Great, we'll get this little chat group together, and we'll talk about and do all the things that we typically do on live streams, so we could do them inside the game. That'd be just so cool.
No, absolutely, and I think part of the bridge you're helping create here is that there's people like It Toast for the who's here in chat, and Big Sweat of these who's here in chat. These are the Discord names. These are the names they go by here on YouTube. and I'm sorry, Twitter names, and YouTube, they have different Discord names. So you probably never be, you would never be able to find them if they weren't using sort of their same sort of names, throughout every social media channel. The other thing that sort of got me to think that I was very interested in, the idea, I think at some point you were saying you could maybe track genealogy in heroes, so that way you could sort of see, and I know some of these games do this. It's like, oh hey, here's the hero, but not necessarily the owner. Track it in that way. And what it got me to think that at some point, maybe not in the near future, but at some point in the future, a person that comes to mind, someone like Poring, who's rocking Fight Club, you know, his heroes might come, might be going for premium down the line because it's got the Poring pedigree. You're thinking he's creating heroes that have won tournaments in PvP or Fight Club or something. That's the hero I want. He's generating, he's summoning some awesome heroes. He knows what he's doing. Kristian knows what he's doing. Grady knows what he's doing. Being able to own a hero that comes from these people who have played the game for a while, not just some, I'm new to the game, let me start summoning recklessly because I don't know what I'm doing. Being able to maybe purchase heroes from people like that, it's such an awesome feature. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that's something you're also looking into developing.
Yeah, definitely. The whole key is, everybody who has any type of asset inside the game should be able to maximize it. Just like you said, if Poring has the best DFK duels heroes and that's something he's great at, and somebody says, hey, I really want to get one of those, I like that one, you should be able to message him. You shouldn't have to go hunt him down through Discord or Twitter or something like that. Just message him inside the game and say, hey, you know what, your Dark Knight is kicking my ass in every single duel. How much do you want for him? I'd rather just buy him from you than continue to lose. And people should get that benefit, that intrinsic benefit out of it. Also too, so many people have gone through, from Faulty Poker to everybody else who does summons on a daily basis, have had to go through the process of manually checking recessive genes and just finding those gene matches. And Adventures in DFK does a great job. If you know which two heroes that you want, you can pretty much narrow them down and you can see what your chances are. But if you don't, and you got to go out there and find them, that's a pain in the ass, right? So you want to have a way where you can go out there and you can see, okay, these are all the heroes right now that match what I'm looking for gene wise from the tavern and from hiring. And it might be that some of the heroes too aren't for sale or aren't for hire. Well, if they're not, I can just contact those people or put out a couple of feelers and see if they're willing to privately sell them to me or privately hire them to me. So yeah, just being able to go out and search like that would be awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, it told for thee, it took him a month to find, and be able to contact the owner of a hero he was looking for, to be able to purchase. I mean, being able to get a month back of your time, I'm sure would be, of tremendous value. When do you think DFK Today goes live? I mean, how, what are your thoughts? I mean, I know you're chatting with the team, but expected ETA, and I know that's sort of it's a loaded question, but I mean, in your head, if ideally, by when do you think you may be able to roll something like this out?
Yeah, definitely. Well, the standard answer is soon, right? But we've been working on it for a while, and a lot of the things that take the longest time are things that we don't have control over, like getting the assets from all the heroes. And I've spoken to to Born to Die and a couple of the other people that have had to go out there and get the assets from inside the game. By the assets, I mean like every hero is not just one card. It's it's a designation. Like, so the Berserker has different characteristics and traits, and all of those genes on the visual genes all build into that card itself, and then the backgrounds and everything else. So it turns out being thousands and thousands of these different graphics that you need to acquire and do all this stuff. And then pets are a completely different bag. And even Mr. Zipper said, that's something that you've got to do yourself. We can't actually do that. So our team's gone out and got most of the actual assets that you need in order to be able to build those cards themselves. And so we've done that now, which is great. The next thing is getting everything integrated with Clayton. And we're using Convolent, the partner for DFK. So their APIs in order to, get most of that information. But The APIs just aren't very reliable. I don't know if it's a blockchain thing or if it's actually a, it's something that's going on behind the scenes. But so the testing is kind of going on right now, the beta testing, and we have about 20, 25 people that are doing beta testing, giving us suggestions, doing some things behind the scenes. But I think once we get everything integrated to the point where it's pretty stable and you can get responses from the blockchain in a decent amount of time, and it's not gonna, it's not gonna take like 20 minutes for you to get all of your inventory or, that stuff from the gardens or something like that. I'm trying to get it so it's a couple of seconds, because I know people's attention span is just, super quick. But a lot of times it's just like, okay, we make a query, we get it back. It might take 15 or 20 seconds for you to get all the information. But once you do, it's displayed, it's nice to look at. It's like DFK Tracker-esque, before it was kind of shut down. So I think that once we can do that, and then the last thing is just to get that daily questing in there, and then the ability to share everything. I think that's been missing from DFK especially. So by share everything, I mean just those typical share buttons that you see on just about everything that's out there. You can tweet out your latest hero, you can tweet out your latest quest, you can put on Reddit what land you just bought. You can do all those little things that people do, and we see them on Twitter, and we see them around the web, and we go like, oh cool, it's another guy playing DFK. But it's really hard to go out there and do a screenshot or, get a GIF and put all that stuff together. So just having that share button, I think is huge. I'd love for DFK to put that too into their UI where, especially on the summons, right? You should be able to just like, once you summon a hero, just have a share button, tweet it out. This is what I just summoned. Okay, cool. Everybody can see it. So, just those little things I think that'll be nice to have. So, but yeah, to answer your question, we're in the process right now of getting Serandale 2.0 Clayton up and going. We're hoping to have that done, probably early next week. And then we'll have the dashboard together probably before Christmas. And then after the dashboard, we're going to work on the chat messaging system, which should hopefully be done by the end of the year. And then I'm hoping that people can start using probably early next year. So a couple of weeks, based on the DFK schedule, probably 2 development cycles. So 2 or 3 weeks from now.
Wow, that's fairly quick. I'm impressed. I am definitely making use of this, and the fact that it's gonna be a power up. I mean, more, it'll make us, those who are invested or sort of put their money in Astral Siege, you'll feel a bit better that you're getting pretty bang for their buck on that one.
Hopefully. Yeah, like I said, I mean, when the community benefits, it's a really cool thing, for that short window of time that we had, kind of December, January of last year, when it seemed like every crypto influencer was talking about DFK, right? You went out there and they're like, oh, we love DFK. DFK is so great. And that was when the token was going from like, $5 to $22 or whatever it finally hit. And then everybody was like, oh, DeFi Kingdoms is really cool. I've always been a fan of DeFi Kingdoms. And then of course, when it started going down, you didn't hear about it anymore at all. It's crazy how crypto influencers just like give up on projects, or they all said the same thing. And I know it pisses Grady off to nonstop. He was so mad. He's like, I'm going to find that I Am George guy, and I'm going to pin him down and let him know what's going on in the project. So, but I think we can get back to that.
No, I was going to say, he got to him. He got a hold of him.
Yeah, he's the point. So I love him. I love so many people in the community, and it's great to, like Rock 808 was just, he was live streaming the entire time. I was like, dude, how do you do it nonstop? And it was just like, it was fun to just kind of hang out. And he'd be like, yeah, I've got 4 people on my Twitch channel right now, and we're live streaming, and say something, and do something. So it was cool just kind of hanging out and doing all that stuff. But yeah, everybody's passionate. That's the fun thing, right? Is when the community gets passionate about something, just like at our meetup, I wasn't expecting Bryce to bring his tablet with him and, do that summon at the table. He's like, do you mind if I just bought a Gen 0. Do you mind if I do a summon? I'm like, no, that'll be great. Everybody will love it. And when he did, we were like, yeah, this is awesome.
It was beautiful because it was organic. My God, no, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. I do want to transition to a different segment. It's a new segment I've not done before, but it's something, I've spoken to the person who creates these. Hopefully they crunch out more content and I can sort of showcase their work more often. Created a cut video or video, just sort of introducing the segment. So I'll do that. We'll go ahead and get, just chat about the subject at hand. So let me cue that up, and let's have it go. So it's a segment I'm calling Longside's Eyes on DFK. If you don't know who he is, you guys should know who he is. Or get to his content, get to his work. He writes some awesome Medium articles. The guy really needs sort of more love from the community. I saw a tweet, and it took me down a rabbit hole. So I saw this one sort of comparing, the top five blockchain games by volume, 24-hour volume. I believe this is a specific date. They were looking at December 5th. You've got Axie Infinity at number one. You've got DFK at number two, and this is 24-hour volume. And I had seen Longside's work, and I'll go ahead and call out the specific article I found. He did a gameplay analysis, powered by Covalent, and I know you referenced it a bit ago. Actually, you've referenced a bit ago. There was a bit of a chat we've had, I think, all as a community in the past about Axie as a whole, but he calls out something, a few different interesting things. He talks about three R's. This is Longzai. I could be pronouncing the name wrong, so forgive me if I'm wrong. But he talks about the three R's, which is reach, retention, revenue. And he looks at Axie, he looks at DFK, and he sort of analyzes both of these, or all three of these different items throughout, and he's looking at it sort of the year as a whole, as he's comparing sort of the two. We'll talk through reach first. He calls out the fact that Axie Infinity had managed to just find a wider audience, and that we all know, 20 times more than DFK. And yet DFK still maintains 30% active addresses from its peak, while Axie only has been able to retain 4% of those active addresses. So that's sort of interesting. He also talks about how the on-chain activity looks a bit more promising for DFK. We've been able to sort of hover around 300,000 transactions a day, while Axie's been doing an average of 1/10 of what they were doing at its peak of 100,000 transactions a day. So with that said, as far as the reach goes, I mean, the information I just laid out. How do you compare the two? I mean, what's impressing you about that comparison between Axie and DFK? Because one of the things that sort of intrigues me is the fact that those daily transactions. I mean, the disparity between how much more daily transactions DFK seeing than Axie, sort of interesting.
Definitely. Yeah. The comparison, I don't think you can really compare DFK to Axie. Everybody will, because Axie's valuation at the peak was something like $20 billion. So, that's kind of what people want to see, right? They want to see token go up. And there was no real gameplay, like we talked about earlier, to Axie, other than, take your three best Axies, throw them into a ring. Hopefully they win and you get some of the smooth love potion tokens that you can, automatically dump on the market, hopefully get some money for those, and then go on to the next battle. And, I at first I was like, well, this is a game, people are playing it, they're making money from it. I guess the, people in the Philippines were making money from it. I talked to my assistants in the Philippines, and I said, have you guys heard about this? Are you playing it? They're like, well, I have a friend that's playing it. Let me ask them. And like, yeah, he was playing it for a little bit, but now he can't make any money from it, so he's not playing it anymore. And I was like, ooh, that's not a good sign. So, you know, when I heard that, I sold off pretty much all of my Axie stuff, and that was before it completely crashed. But it was nice to hear that firsthand. Like, okay, it's only good for a certain amount of time, and if you know when you see it crash, it's going to crash bad. Now, Axie managed to make a lot during that time, right? Their treasury last time I checked was like $720 million. It was an amazing amount of money. You know, they had sold so much and had made so much in transaction volume that they had a huge war chest. And I know they've spent a lot of that. They obviously had the Ronin hack, which was like $615 million or something like that. I don't know how much they ended up having to spend or what that actually took out of them, but you know, they'd still have a pretty significant amount of money in the bank. And like we talked about, you know, at the beginning, they started building, you know, they first were formed in 2017, started building in 2018. It took them 3 years until they actually reached some sort of a market presence where they could actually, you know, they became broader in the audience. I also look at how many wallets there are that, you know, were interacting with Axie, which at the peak was like 200,000 or 300,000 or something like that. And DFK right now, active wallets, I think inside the game is like 5,000 or 6,000. You know, there's not a whole lot of people that are actually active. I mean, there probably are a lot more that have come and touched the game at some point, but there's just not a whole lot right now. So if you take those 5,000 people, and I talked about this to Dreamer in Miami, I was like, if you take the 5,000 people and you turn it into 10,000 people, you know, that's not going to just double the game, but it'll probably exponentially, you know, increase the value of everybody's assets inside the game. And then all of a sudden it goes to 20,000 people and 40,000. You know, it's amazing to see what happens through that, you know, the accumulation of new users over time. And I think we're all looking forward to that, but we're not going to see that kind of growth until we have some type of a catalyst. You know, people aren't going to jump into crypto, especially right now after everything that's gone on in the market. But,
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
when it comes to the fighting, the battle, just from what we saw from Workhorse, right? And Ian and Hubert were, you know, that alpha that we got, I am so incredibly stoked. I went out right after that and I bought a bunch of heroes just because I was like, okay, this is going to be so freaking awesome. I can't wait to start.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
So the big sweaty D's question. I mean, Axie had, he's saying they had over 1 million users, which is very impressive. I mean, is it something that, one, do you think we'll likely see with DFK, and two, maybe the more interesting question, do you think it's something we need from DFK?
That's a much better question. I don't think we need it. I think that we could see it potentially, you know, if they continue to build and they continue to make something that we all love to play. Just us alone are gonna get the word out. I mean, just looking at how Decentral Miami went, you know, there's probably 2,000 people at the conference. I'd say that at least 1,800 of them by the time the conference was over knew about DFK. And it was fun to actually go out there and get the word out, because a lot of them were like, "Oh, you guys are still here? You know, you still got a game, you're still making something." Like, people just don't, you know, from year to year, they don't know what's going on inside of crypto, right? It's like here today, gone tomorrow kind of a thing. To answer the do we need them? No, we don't, right? Because if we have 5,000, I mean, it'd be great to get to whatever 1 million, right? That's what a 20x. You know,
Right,
actually,
yeah.
more than that. That's a 200x. Yeah, that's a 200x to get to 1 million. But I do feel like this, and I think that Zealous put the needle on the head in one of the AMAs. Was he said DFK is basically this generation's Dungeons and Dragons. So, you know, from when I played, or maybe when you played initially, we had pieces of paper, we had graph paper, we graphed out our dungeons, you know, we rolled our characters and we had to, you know, write them in pencil so that we could erase the stats when we leveled up and, you know, re-roll them and do that stuff like now. And, you know, once the first role-playing games came onto computers, you know, in the 80s and 90s, it was like, wow, this is really cool. And now you can own your own assets. I mean, just the fact of you owning your hero is amazing. And when you get done with it, or when you don't want to play anymore, you just sell it. I would have made so much money, you know, when I was in my teens, if I could have sold half of the stuff I did inside of the games that I played. I was like, even thinking of like Warcraft and some of the stuff I used to play, Bard's Tale, and a lot of the other games when I was, you know, back then. It was just like, wow, you played a game, you completed it, you told your friends about it for a couple of days, and then, you know, you were done. You were on to your next $40 or $50 game. So, you know, this is going to give people the chance to own that experience, and they're going to take so much more ownership. The thing that really excited me was, I think I saw a YouTuber who was talking about this one kid in World of Warcraft, where all he did every day was go out and mine gold. And he took all the gold that he mined and went to eBay and sold it. And he made like his best year, he made $1,200,000 by selling World of
Wow.
Warcraft gold on eBay. And I was like, that sounds a lot like DFK, but without all the trouble of having to go and take your gold and sell it on eBay. So, I think these things will really start to hopefully take shape here over the next
Oh
couple of
my
years.
God.
We'll see that happen. Yeah.
No kidding. Retention was the other piece he calls out. Talks about player retention, and he has a table. So if you guys take the time, I would have the tables, but they wouldn't show just as well here on the screen. But he talks about player retention. People. So the way he had it was he gave like a retention score, and I'm sure it's sort of intricate. It's stickiness ratio, and I think it's a formal sort of like way to sort of analyze something. So the higher the number, the better. So the stickiness ratio for DFK versus Axie, so means daily users that come back time over this period of a month. 21% for Axie, 56% for Crystal Veil, or for DFK chain. Um, and I know we're not comparing apples to apples, but I think that the players we do have, the players we've been able to retain, how often they're coming back, time and time again. And then before we even talk about retention revenue, so as far as revenue goes, it looks like Axie's right now currently they're generating about $8,000 a day, sort of in gas fees. And what at their peak they were generating $8,000 a day. That number has apparently come down to about $200 a day. While DFK is constantly generating about $1,000 a day, in those gas fees. Not just the gas fees. Think of the fuel that's being burnt that's never coming back. Um, this means that as far as I mean, it means a variety of different things, but I think of the TVL also on DFK change. It doesn't change as much compared to the Axie piece. Things sort of changed. Total value lock changed once the Ronin hack took place. Sort of that value went away, and people maybe sort of, hey, I'm you know, Axie is great, but I'm leaving. As far as retention and revenue, I mean, and sort of calling out, big sweaty D's, and I know I've heard Grady sort of speculate, and we can speculate all day, maybe be wrong every time. But as far as your sort of big picture, I've heard you talk about DFK not just months. You talk about DFK in years. I mean, 3, 4, 5. I've heard you say 5 years at times. I mean, for a crypto project to be around for 5 years, that you're sort of getting to sort of some pretty impressive time there because not a lot of projects last that long. You're talking at least 1 or 2 cycles being around. I mean, your revenue, your retention. How do you build that?
Well, I think,
If
yeah, that's a great question. And I mean, just go back to speculation with Big Sweaty D's. I think that none of us would have speculated that Jewel would have ever been at $20, right? When we first got into this, it was never going to happen. It's a farming token, and we're like, no way, it's just not going to happen. And it did, and then it just completely threw everybody off. We're just like, whoa, because even back then, trying to summon and trying to buy heroes and stuff, and it was hundreds. It was 500, 1,000. It could be if you wanted a Gen Zero back then, it was $60,000 or $80,000 to buy a Gen Zero. So it was like it didn't make the game any more fun. It was just like, okay, your heroes are worth more. And to tell you the truth, I didn't sell any of my heroes. I've only sold 2 heroes ever. So I don't plan on selling heroes. I mean, I may at some point, but it's just not something that I want to do. And I was mainly concerned that when Harmony, when DFK was only on Harmony, it was a pain in the ass. I mean, it was just a pain in the ass to get to Harmony, to bridge there, to do all the things that you had to. And I just didn't really like the experience. And it was hard to get new players because who wants to go to Harmony? It's just this weird blockchain out, that's difficult to get to. But when they branched out into Avalanche, that really started to make me bullish because I was like, oh, Avalanche, it's got all this total value locked. It's got all these degens already that love DeFi. It just fits, right? It fits. And then they found out like, oh, the subnet for DFK is different from the Avalanche C chain. So you still have to bridge from Avalanche to DFK chain if you want to use it, which kind of dissuaded a lot of people that probably would have just taken their native Avalanche and been able to use it and get into the game immediately. So we kind of found that out the first time. And that's why they changed on Clayton, right? They could have made a side chain on Clayton and had Jewel be the token and done that same thing. But then people on Clayton would have had to bridge over to whatever that chain was and do the same thing. And they found out like that just didn't work. So now in Clayton, they've got all of the partnerships in place that they don't have on DFK chain. And talking to Dreamer at Decentral Miami, one of the biggest one by far is Chainlink. So if you don't have Chainlink integration, you really don't have any access to the outside world, right? The Oracle integration is what you need. And to get that is 18 months, and they also Chainlink makes you jump through these financial hurdles because they don't want to, start a project where the chain just goes out of business. And so Chainlink is a huge deal. And having that on Clayton is going to be enormous for them because now they can integrate to all of the other, Oracle functionality that you would get, all of the token prices, all of the outside, things that they typically would from out of the Clayton ecosystem. But having all those partnerships right there is going to be great. So DFK's really learned over time, like, okay, here's the mistakes, or here's the issues that we had on Harmony. Okay, we bridged over to Avalanche. Oh, we put on the subnet and not on the Avalanche mainnet, so we had all these little issues. Now, on their third iteration, they've learned from those issues, they've made them better, and now they're in a great position over here where not only are they on Clayton, they're in a completely different area of the world, right? They're in Southeast Asia. They've got a ton of gamers that are in that area. They're all building metaverses, and they made the investment, Clayton did, in DFK that gives them the 3-year runway that I talked about. That's one of the things that really kind of spooked me when Harmony went up in smoke, right? Was like, holy crap, because they could have lost all their money at that point, and all the developers could have gone away.
It was a lifeline. It was a lifeline.
So Dreamer said, we're coming now from a position of power. We can still go out and get funds if we want to get a VC, or if we want to get some people to come and invest, we can. But now we're not desperate. We've got 3 years worth of runway. And from what Fox said, they're break even right now. So the decks and the fees and everything that they're doing going into the development fund is break even for them. They can develop now for infinite, right? If they're at least a break even cash flow, they can pay their developers, they can pay their team, they can pay everybody and still have enough at the end of the day to keep the lights on. Okay, they're not really dipping into their treasury at all. That's what really makes me the most bullish on it. So when I think about it in terms of years, like I've told people, like I really feel like we should be looking at this as like 3, 4, 5 years down the road, because today we're in a bear market. It's going to be a bear market for a while. I think 2023 is going to be worse than 2022, if that's possible. But, we're looking at recession, we're looking at a real estate downturn, and all of these things are going to affect the crypto markets, even though we don't want them, don't want to say that they are. Jewel might go down more. Crystal and Jade might go down more. I don't know. I just know that I'm going to continue to play the game. I'm going to continue to acquire as much Jewel as I can, as many heroes as I can. I'm going to have a good time doing it. And then when it does shoot back up at some point in the future, I don't know that's going to be, I'll be there for the ride. And that was kind of Jewel's, Dreamer's panel in Decentral Miami. Dreamer was like, we should think of this as the new normal. And if it goes back up, great. But if it doesn't, hey, we're here and we're making money from it and we're enjoying it. And it's, it's something that we can build and build and build and make better and better. And I was like, great. I want to be behind a team that thinks that way. And I just feel like it's got long-term potential. It's one of the few things I felt this way, about for a while. I was telling somebody that the last time I felt like this was when I first saw a digital signature, when I saw DocuSign come out. I did my first DocuSign document in 2005. I think it was like the very first time I digitally signed anything. And I was like, wow, 2 clicks of a button and I've signed an entire real estate contract and I'm done. Holy crap, this is going to be big. And now it's a $10 billion company. So
I felt that way with Square when you could do those electronic payments using your phone. I was like, oh my God, or like just about any, and now you see them everywhere. It's like, wow, that was awesome. I should have put some money in there. I feel that way, and this is, I think, where you're getting at. I feel that way about DFK. The big picture, it's there. I think we all see it. They're visionaries, and we're early adopters, even though it maybe didn't feel that way when Jewel was at $22. I think we can all agree to disagree. $22 was a hyperinflated price for what you could do with DFK at the time. Could we hit $22 again? Maybe at some point. Is it going to be in the next 6 months? Probably not.
Well,
but
if you look at it too, I think what we got to take a look at is at that point when Jewel was $22, there was 500 million was the circulating supply, was it? I think. And so the valuation was over $1 billion, right? It was like 1.2 billion or something at that point. And we were, I know everybody that I spoke to was like, oh, no way DFK should be worth $1 billion. I mean, that was ridiculous. But now with the circulating supply of Jewel at 125 million, could it get back up to 20 again? Sure, because that's only going to make a $2 billion valuation. And if they build something that everybody wants to play, and back to our talk about Axie Infinity, if we have 1 million users, no doubt in my mind, I look at some of the classic games right now, like Supercell making Clash of Clans and Clash Royale and all those other games that they've made. Supercell's a $10 billion company, and they make free-to-play games that everybody plays, and they buy the skins inside. They can't do anything with them. I played Clash of Clans for like 5.5 years, and I was like super good at it. And I was like, this is great. And then the day that I gave it up, I was like, why am I doing this? I'm wasting hours and hours every day of my life playing this game that I'm never going to get this time back. At least with DFK, I can get some, not only the intrinsic rewards of, doing the quest on a daily basis, but I've got heroes that I can go sell, and I've got other things inside the game that make it more fun and more valuable for me to play. But I feel like that's one of the keys, is to look at it like, what's a company inside the real world where we can value it and say, oh yeah, this is probably pretty similar, and does that value make sense?
So it really brings up a good question. You're more familiar with Axie. Do you know if Axie has a DAX built into their game? Do you
I
recall?
don't. I know that they were trying to, and that's another reason why I think DFK is ahead of them, is having a decentralized exchange gives them the ability to earn fees. And then, not only that, but yeah, they're locking up all that value, but they're also too having the ability for us to trade all the inventory, all the items, all the things that they're going to come up with. We haven't even hit like the majority of the items, right? It's like we haven't even got to crafting yet. All those things that you're going to be able to do inside the decks and say like, okay, I want to trade this leather armor for, a broadsword. All those things that you think of in typical role-playing games, we haven't even got to yet. So that'll be fun to be, inside the decks and seeing what things actually trade for, because it'll be a complete open market, right? If you've got something that I want to buy and I'm willing to pay for it, great, that's what it's worth.
No, and I think that sort of summarizes my response to Big Sweaty D's. I mean, there's a bunch of crypto games coming out. What differentiates DFK? What sort of puts them ahead of the competition? They've thought of it. It's not just a game. They've thought of it's a world. It's literally a world where you're going to be able to do a bunch of different things, and the PvP PvE piece, the pets and the utility. I mean, when I think of games like Axie, it's a very sort of it's a it's a one, it's a thing. It's just that you're there, you're fighting three characters or whatever, and that's it. That's the game. There's no backstory. There's no lore. There's none of that. And DFK is gonna bring it all to us. We talked about reach, retention, revenue. I want to bring up a third R that Longhead doesn't bring up when comparing things. When comparing the two gameplay projects, and it's not so much as a comparison, but recover. I mean, how do we recover? How do we bring back some of these people who were interested in DeFi kingdoms, and sort of they participated for one reason or another. Maybe they got burned, maybe they overinvested, maybe they left salty, right? How do we bring them back? Any thoughts there?
That's a great question. I think instead of having maybe that R as recover, I think that the R should probably be renew, because I
Oh,
don't
that's a
think
good
that the
one.
people
Yeah.
that left are coming back anytime soon. But I think that we can renew them with a new type of player, a new type of user, a new type of community member that is more invested in, the same things that interest you and me about the game. I think that the original player wasn't invested, right? They were token go up people. And, I think we're all in that boat where we look at it like, okay, how much is this going to be worth? How can I be rich tomorrow? Can I get my Lambo? And that's great. People are always going to have that greed attitude, and it helps in a bull market, definitely. And it helped it helped DFK, it helped them definitely as well. But I think when we renew our player base, it's going to be based off of people like you and me and all the people that are out there right now that are continually looking at like, oh, this is what I like about the game, and this is why I like it. And if we're continually challenging the team and saying like, okay, this is what we want and this is when we want it, and they continue to build it and put it together for us and we continue to enjoy it, that's going to be the best advertising and marketing campaign that anybody could ask for, right? It's like, how do we renew the community? Because I remember looking at the Discord when I first got involved, and I was like, wow, there's 80,000 members in the Discord. I couldn't think of any other Discords that I were in that had 80,000 people in it. And I think at the peak it got to probably right around 100,000. I think that a lot of those people are gone. They're probably never going to come back. But just like we talked about, it could be 1 million people at some point that are real excited. But that's going to be people that come in, they enjoy playing the game, they enjoy buying heroes, they enjoy doing quests, they enjoy putting them in combat, they enjoy doing all the different aspects of it. And once they enjoy it, they're going to tell everybody, right? They're going to tell all their friends, hey, this is fun. I went out there, I paid $50 for this hero. I won two adventures, and I got these 3 quests, and I got this egg, and I hatched a pet, and I did all this stuff. And look at now my stuff's worth $400. And they're like, well, you turned $50 into $400? I want to do that, And it's just that simple, word of mouth that's going to really travel and really going to build up probably the things over the long term. But just like we talked about too, I don't want that to happen immediately. I'm kind of looking at this time as like, this is the opportunity. This is the, where people see the opportunity, the early investors, the early pioneers are going to really reap the rewards at the end, because it's like, okay, great. If this is around for the next bull run, there's no doubt in my mind. I mean, just think about how the team's functioning right now and how efficient they are and how effective they are and how they're getting things done at such a low run rate, right? They basically were running on empty for a while. So, I mean, people were getting paid however they were getting paid in IOUs. Now, at least they're actually getting, they're getting paid, they're growing, they're doing the things they need to do. And they've got a smart team, right? I can't believe they've got, Dr. Zipper and Hubert Dreamer. So, I mean, a little bit more alpha. Dreamer was the vice president of risk management at Goldman Sachs.
Which is
some of his
bonkers.
clients were large hedge funds like Bridgewater, like Ray Dalio's company. To have somebody who was vice president of risk management at Goldman Sachs, which takes a while to get to. I think he'd been there for 7 years. To take somebody like that out of a position that's nice and cushy, where you can continue doing what you're doing and probably become partner at Goldman Sachs at some point in the future and have that, $1 million+ a year salary, to say like, oh, you know what, this really interests me. I want to go into this, field and do this. That was kind of the last little thing that I heard from him that I was like, awesome. If you have this much conviction to leave this job, which is a great high paying job, but go into something in a direction that you feel that passionate about, and you're also to a risk manager, you're the one that's looking at the risk on a daily basis and weighing the risk reward. I want you on my team. And I just feel like that's a really big, a huge aspect of it is that team membership, that's smart people that are doing smart things and hopefully doing things that, we can all get behind and be like, yeah, this is great. I want to be on board. I want to be on this ship. It's going the right direction.
No, and it's impressive. I will say that, and to Beef's point, and we've many of us have sung this tune. The team's impeccable. I mean, the fact that you have this, these group of people. I think of Dr. Zipper's degree. His degree makes perfect sense in this game. It makes sense. You have someone who has a doctorate who can sort of tell you right from wrong. I mean, a berserker should do this, should have these, you're crafting weapons, they should look like this, they should do this. I mean, what an awesome guy to be able to have on the team. It's just crazy to think about. I think one other thing I want to do, sort of maybe transition to briefly before we call it, is sort of just a few thoughts on the AMA today. I know it was a conversation we had when we were in person. I forget who it was on the table. When we were live in person, we were very excited about that person was very excited about the idea of a centralized exchange. Like, when centralized exchange? When are we going to be listed on Binance? When are we going to be listed on, insert name of, not FTX, right? Because they're all done for. But you and I both sort of see eye to eye on this one, and I've heard it from others as well. It may not be necessarily a great idea, and I think Dreamer sort of sort of wrapped that one up in a bow for us, at least in the why would we make such a move right now? But your thoughts on it? Are you on making the move ever? Like, is that something you'd be interested in for the project to sort of be listed? They're gonna do what they're gonna do, but from your perspective, I mean, your 2 cents, is that a move you want to see?
No. Yeah, it's easy. It's so simple. I mean, people who want something on a central exchange only want it there for one reason, and that's because the token goes up. And I think if you see the Coinbase effect, which is really brought on by Andreessen Horowitz, usually they're the ones that, Andreessen Horowitz is a huge investor in Coinbase, and they're also a huge investor in crypto, and they own a ton of tokens in these companies that get listed on centralized exchanges. You see the Coinbase effect. It used to be the FTX effect as well. Once a centralized exchange says, oh, we're listing XYZ token, be that Dogecoin or Shiba Inu or whatever, it goes up. It goes up not a little bit, like 100, 200, 300, 500%, especially in a bull market, right? Well, that just gives all those early investors, all those VCs, everybody, all that exit liquidity that they need to cash out their 2 penny tokens for $10, $20, $50, whatever that token ends up trading for. And it doesn't benefit the community at all. It may be that initial pump, but it's probably going to end up going down. And I think that they did a study that the tokens that get listed are down below where they were when they actually announced the listing, some like within 30 days or 60 days of actually getting listed on the exchange. So it doesn't do anybody any good term. Also I think I talked to Dreamer about it. He mentioned that the amount of actual market making, the amount of money that they need to give to the exchange is incredibly large. It's in the tune of like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands, if not, possibly $1 million, US dollars worth of the token or more, just so that they can make a market and they can be liquid. And so when they start trading, it's not a huge slippage, like you see on some of the really small tokens that are out there. And having that, I guess the team being under pressure to provide all of those things to a centralized exchange, I don't think it really benefits anybody to just be able to go out. And I think that Juul is trading on a couple of, quote unquote centralized exchanges. I think there's like BitMEX and something else that had listed it. They're not really, I don't think that they're endorsed by the team or anything, but anybody can make a market anything they want to, right? If they just, go out there and do it. But yeah, I mean, the simple answer is no. I'd rather have everything traded decentralized. It makes more sense. The last thing I'll add on that is that, the derivatives market, especially, which was prevalent on FTX, allowed them to control prices. So, and I don't think many people understand the derivatives market, including me. I'm not super versed in it, but I just know that futures allow you to basically dictate what the price of a token is going to be at, and you can make it go up and you can make it go down just by trading those future bets on what something's going to be worth. So it may be good. And if you're looking for, you're looking to exit your Juul position or whatever they would list, it would probably go up. It might go up from whatever it is, 20 cents to 50 cents or 75 cents. That would be good. We'd all be happy. We'd all triple our Juul, our US dollars, but it wouldn't do any good for them in the long term.
So to as a counterfactual to Big Sweaty comment, being on a centralized exchange makes it easier for new users, and sort of exposes the game to new people potentially, in as much as being able to offer Juul. It's not just about the price, but it's ease of access. I mean, what are your thoughts there?
It is. It's definitely easier access, and I was thinking about that yesterday when I was like trying to figure out, because I think Crypto Grady even said he had tried to go and bridge USDT to Clayton, and you can't bridge USDT to Clayton. You have to bridge OUSDT to Clayton.
Yeah.
So it's like, and that's a pain in the ass, right? And even for people that have been in DeFi for a while, or at least think that they know kind of what's going on, you're like, God, I got to go use the Orbitz bridge. What is this? I've never seen this one before. I hope it's not a rug pull. I hope my USDT is going to still be there when I go claim it, at some point in the future. So yeah, those are the little hiccups and the headaches that you have to go through. So I do think that if Juul was available on Coinbase, yeah, that'd be great. Cause then we could say, all right, you want to play DeFi Kingdoms, go out to Coinbase or go out to Binance or wherever, buy yourself some Juul and then bridge it directly into Crystal Vale or Serandale, or, just put it in MetaMask and use it however you want.
So I think Dreamer had said, and I don't recall, I mean, I listened to it 2 or 3 times and you always miss something. Apparently Dreamer said that they would opt out of derivatives, so that would be interesting. final thought from you. Any closing remarks? I mean, what's your overall take on DFK? You're super bullish, but I mean, how bullish? What's your vision for the project, and what's their potential?
I love the fact that we've got a really smart, dedicated community. That's the biggest thing I can see just about in anything that I want to invest in, right? Is you've got to have smart, enthusiastic people that are behind it. And I think that there's a core group of people that are there right now that are very, very dedicated, and they're very smart. And just being able to go through and talk to the team, it just gives me that confidence that I needed, because I had never met, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Miami, was just to meet some of the team members face to face and see how are these people, are they good, are they kind, are they legitimate, are they or are they kind of the salesperson that just wants to say one thing and do something completely different.
Yeah.
And being able to meet people is just it's the best it's the best way to do business. And so I think everybody should do that. If you think of DFK as an investment, meet the team. I'm actually going to go to ETH Denver. I figured that since I was in Miami and I talked to Bolon about it, I was like, I'm going to ETH Denver. It's free. You guys should all go. It's completely free. You can go to Denver and spend a week. I think it's actually like 10 days long. There's a builder program. There's a hackathon. There's actually all kinds of stuff going on. So I'm excited about that.
They may be there, hopefully.
Well, they'll be there. Yeah. I think they said that that's the one of the other four. He said there's 4 or 5 conferences on their agenda. So I'm going to go to ETH Denver. I know that in ETH Denver last year, they gave away Gen Zeros. I don't know if they're going to do it this year. But yeah, they gave away 2 Gen Zeros last year. Yeah, that would be cool. I know that Ogre, I think, was there. A couple of the of the team members were. This was pre-doxing, right? So it was like they didn't want to be on camera. I know a couple of the team members did, and they did live streams and stuff. But like Fox and a couple of people didn't. They were still like undercover. But yeah, it's fun you should go meet the team and meet the community and see how receptive they are and how cool they are. And like I said, I think that now it's really given me the kind of the good, warm, fuzzy feeling like you want to invest in a project or projects that are going to be around. And that's what everybody said in this bear market. You don't want to invest in the project that's going to be, that has only a year worth of runway left. And now that they're on Clayton, and now that there's, they've got the DFK chain humming along, I can't see, a whole lot of problems on the horizon. Yeah, there might be a bad economic downturn, which we could see, prices of everything go down, which would suck. But at the same time, I'm not looking to take my money out of DFK anytime soon. I'm not looking at it as an investment anymore. When I first got into crypto, I bought Cardano thinking token go up. I'm buying this at $1.70. Hopefully it'll be worth $5 or $50 at some point in the future. Now I'm just looking at it like, okay, I want to see what happens next in DeFi kingdoms. I want to own some land. I want to do some battles. I want to, do some of these really cool things, craft some items, and do some of the stuff that's there. So that's my long-term, goal. And then, to help grow the community. I never thought I would be a YouTube content creator and do that stuff. But now people are coming to me and it really warms my heart. And I know that you probably look at the same thing. I look at the comments. I read the comments. I try to comment on everything I possibly can. And when somebody leaves a bad comment, I'm like, oh, damn. Okay, I'll do a better job next time. But when people leave good comments, they're like, hey, where have you been? When are you going to do another video and that kind of stuff? I'm like, oh, sometimes you just don't feel like it, right? You're like, I'm tired. Yep. I don't want to do a video. But you read a comment and they're like, hey, I'd really love to see you do a video on this. I'm like, okay, cool. If you want to see it, I'll make one, And so it's just, it's that community. It's the warm, fuzzy feeling and hanging out with crazy people that, are all part of that, that whole goal of this could be something much bigger than us. I think that it can be something that's a lot bigger. It'll be around for a while. And I just look forward to it. I know you do. It's just like we're on board and we're going to see where this train takes us.
We're gonna ride the train till it takes us to wherever it's gonna take us. And on that note, I wanna thank you all for joining us. Kristian Peter, it was a pleasure seeing you in person, streaming with you. We've got to do more of these. Thank you all for joining me, and till the next time.
Smash that like button and definitely comment, share the video.
Yes. Thank you.